challenges for Season Fortnite. Thank you for joining me, and here we go. So we're going to go ahead and jump into a match here. We also have some daily challenges we can do as well. Squad mode we're going to have to wait on, but it should be good. And then after we get done with the week 10, which is just flying through hoops, we'll find the banner, the battle banner, and then we will continue probably with end game challenges or overtime challenges. Do damage to opponents. Oh man, I could have just did that today. Alright, so here we go, jumping in. It's not working there. Fantastic. Drop frames. It's weird that it had drop frames. Oh, I know why. Okay. That should fix it. Sorry about that, everybody. There was, looks kind of gray. Why is it so gray and creepy looking? Let's go ahead and land here. Yep. So yeah, I don't know how good the video was before, but we're going ahead and finishing up the Season 8 Battle Pass challenges today. And then hopefully getting up to endgame and finishing up those challenges. I'm going to land here. I think there's a hoop over here, if I'm not mistaken. There's somebody else coming here. He's got my skin on. Nothing there. Oh, there's a shotgun if I make it. What? Where's he shooting me from? Okay. It's kind of weird that I was doing that there. Must have had a challenge to get somebody with a explosive weapon, perhaps. Oh, I could have just, well, could have switched out my shotgun there. Alright, so the first challenge, though, or the challenge I'm doing, is the shoot yourself from, or blast yourself through a hoop. There's the hoop up there, okay. So this might take a couple tries. So I'm just confused why he would have put some more ammo down there. Let me go ahead and check this out here real quick. And I can actually, oh, better shotgun actually. Let me go ahead and heal myself with a campfire. I didn't realize I was injured. Okay. So I'll go over here. Now, I think can I hit this from here? Probably. Oh, come on. Yes! Oh, was that good? Fantastic. And now I just have to work my way over. Whoa. I could go over here, but I also want to go there. I don't know. Let's loot this place up real quick here. Just go ahead and drop my grenade launcher because I don't have ammo for it anyway. Didn't mean to switch that accidentally there. Okay. Some bandages I can use. Might as well take them. Some minis. This also looks like it's been looted, but maybe it wasn't. Is this supplied up already? Seems kind of early. Well, I don't think I'm going to get there in time. To do the one way across the way, but I think I could still make it to the one that I marked on the map there. So like that. Somebody's here. There he is. Ooh. Ah, didn't reload. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Ah. Oh, man. Okay, do I have a... I do not. Okay. Should really pick this up. I don't have a medkit. Oh, there was some bandages across the way. Might as well use those real quick. Whew. I didn't expect to run into anyone there. I have to end up using every single one of these bandages here. It's still gonna leave me a little great. Man, I stink at this. Okay, I gotta get back. Get back a little further. Is he still there? Oh, okay. Alright, good. Somebody else is coming in. Nope, sorry. Great. Oh. This situation is not looking good for me. Is that my trap? No, it isn't. Wait, that is my trap. Ah! That's kind of scared me a little bit. That's okay. That's okay. It went well there. I mean, everything else went well, I thought. So I'm just going to check on the stream here to make sure that it's actually streaming. And if it isn't, I can fix that. And it does seem to be taking a long time for some reason. For whatever reason. Alright, we're going to go again. Let's see here. Alright, we're gonna go again. Whoa. So let's see what they look like in the beginning, because I dropped a ton of frames. Season 8 Fortnite. Thank you for joining me, and here we go. Let's go ahead and jump into a match here. We also have some daily challenges we can do as well. Yeah, it looks like it just took a long time to get going. That's okay though. That is okay. It's okay. Shouldn't happen in the future. Should be good in the future. Moving forward. I still don't know why it's taking so long to load though. I mean, usually it's pretty good about this. Usually I'm in like that. Lickety split. Could be maybe that there's a storm kind of coming in tonight, so maybe that's part of it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of weird that it's taking so long. Guess we're going though. Alright, next. Let's go here. Yeah. What? It's glitching out on me. I think it's the internet, honestly. Maybe it didn't get done switching over. Somebody else is landing here. He went on the bottom though. Can't land on this. Nope. Bye. Maybe that would work. It's odd that he just like left. Okay. So that kind of was a dumb idea to go ahead and try to hit him. But we're in luck because we can get both of the challenges done in one game here if I am careful. Just kind of want to loot up a little bit before it blasts off. I'm just going to switch those two. Yeah, I kind of actually want to bring this thing though. There is a llama. I have to hit that up. Alright, that's the perfect one there. Just gonna see if there's anything on the top here that I missed. I guess that, but it's not really that great. This doesn't matter. Alright, we gotta hit this now. And I can't turn it anymore. How do I... Why can't I leave? I can't exit. It's not letting me leave. Why is it letting me leave? The heck? It's not letting me leave. I'm pressing the whole leave cannon button. Alright, I guess we're doing this really slowly. Alright, it should be good to hit it right, like right there. After all that, no, I can't leave again. What? Well, why did that let me leave? This is dumb. This is really dumb. Really dumb. Alright, let's try this again. Oh, overshot it. Now I gotta go back. Let's get this llama first, though. I think I have to just go for it. Like, I have to aim at it and hit it. Of course, there is a thing over there, too. Oh, this is good, 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 good. See, I can get rid of the boogie bombs for this, right? Okay, so launch pad. Launch pad. What was the other thing? Yeah, I'll take the launch pad. I really should bring that. Good, that's the way I'm going. So let's get back to where I want to go. I'm gonna have to move so quickly. I can't believe I missed this. I'm not gonna make it either. Just quickly. Where are the stairs? They're there. Oh, I didn't reload my shotgun. Okay. Okay, this time we're going to aim directly at it. Maybe just slightly above. Gotta be kidding me. Now I gotta go a little bit higher. I knew we were supposed to go higher. And somebody's here. Fantastic. Oh, he tried to snipe me. No, I set this whole thing up, buddy. Drum gun. I don't have any heals either now. Oh, that scared me. Alright, staircase. Let's try this one more time. This better work. Oh, come on! hit him. That's so dumb, though. How did I miss twice? This shouldn't be that hard. Alright, I'm gonna try again. I need to get sniper rifle elimination as well. We gotta do an end game. I mean, really, we just gotta play games of end game. Yeah, I don't remember taking this long. I should do a speed test to test. Honestly, I should. Let's see what we got. It says I'm good internet, but yeah, it's not going as fast as it should be. Maybe I need to restart the computer. Maybe that would help. Is it maybe because everyone is trying to... Why am I so far over here? Yeah, Tilted's like all destroyed now. Except for it looks like one building. Wait, how come people are dropping so quickly? I'm confused. Like, we're already down to 60 and like the storm didn't even start going. I mean, honestly, I don't even know why they brought any of them back. Like, all the choices, there's a reason they got rid of them, right? I mean, like, all the choices that they were going to bring back were bad. Alright, what do I get rid of? Stick bottom. Decisions. Wait a minute, is this... Oh, I gotta get up there. I don't like this, like, pickaxe because it's insanely loud. Somebody was here. shit. See, I don't get it. What? Okay. That was awkward. Okay. Now I should be able to just go like this. Do it slightly above. Come on. Yes. Now I need to head literally all the way here. Like, it'd probably be wise to hit the pirate camp over here, to be honest. So I can at least... Or go over there so I can go to a geyser or something. Yeah, definitely something is up. Like, it's like lagging a little bit. Running, 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 running. Right down to 28 people. I wonder if I could do this parkour jump here. Nope, fell down. Anything up there that's useful? Oh man. Do I even... Oh, I'd like it, yeah, but... I mean, there should be like a glidey thing over here. There it is. I mean, yeah, I could take a submachine gun, but I already got a drum gun. Why is there that guy? And for 52. That's probably pretty weak. Oh, I can't. Why couldn't I? That's dumb. What? He wasn't even facing me. You guys saw that, right? I mean, that was kind of unfair, if you ask me. I think the most annoying part is that it takes forever to load, and I'm not sure why it is either. I mean, it should be completely fast. It should be going extremely fast. Alright, well, just need one more. So close on all these things, except for this one. I don't even know if I want to play endgame. something. I'm gonna raise my sensitivity a little bit. Just a little bit. Maybe to like 100. 101. That should be fine. Alright, we're landing right here. Who's with me? Somebody's with me. What is this? This isn't really gonna help me. Where you at? Where you at? Somebody's landing here. No. I swear, if you make it out of this. Push the cannon up a little bit. I don't understand. Like, there must be a glitch where it doesn't let you exit. It's like lagged. I press the button and it takes forever to. They must have like edited that or something. All right, right there. Got it. I know there's a guy right here. I'll get that shotgun, maybe. Okay. Now, what else do I have to do? I don't think I have to do anything, to be honest. Not until next match. Alright, I'm gonna use this so I can get across. Honestly, I guess I will keep this. Honestly, get rid of that. It's just the worst. Okay, let's go back to the glidey thing. Okay, where is this? Oh, it's way across the way. And out of the storm. Or in out of the circle. Come on, blast me up. Oh, somebody's shooting at me. And he hit me, actually. I don't see anyone, but doesn't mean they're not there, I guess. Hopefully I get a sniper. I mean, I will take this. Let's see here. Alright, we'll switch that out, switch this out. And I will go ahead and drink this. I'm actually going to switch that out, but I drink this. And then I have a bunch of time to run. I just need a sniper. I might as well take the gun, right? I mean, no point in that. Okay, I got 2 minutes to make it this far. There's a geyser right up there, so I should be okay. I could go back to the old pirate camp. Some more shotgun shells. I suppose I can grab them really quick. Was that worth it? I don't know. I'll get a campfire. It'll be fine. I could use the blast, or the cannon to blast as far as I want. And I can use this campfire while I'm here. Cool. That wasn't so bad. Cannon. Why am I facing the other way? If this launches me weird, I will be mad. Okay. Looks good. And this is right by a geyser I think I'm gonna hit. So it should be fine. There was a fight over there. And over there, and there is a fight going on right over there. I have nothing long range though, so it wouldn't be worth it. Let's see, anything good? Rocket launcher would be good. Actually, honestly, oh, should I keep? I can keep that, I guess. How far do I have to go? Oh, pretty far. I can't just sit around then. I don't really want to get involved with that right over there. I only have a minute. 6 seconds. I'm going to have to take this vehicle, even though I don't want to take a vehicle. wiser for me to just leave the situation. Oh. Okay, so I know there's somebody over there because I saw them. I'm actually gonna take the high ground here. Good thing I did. Yeah, I'm not gonna get involved because there's some guy sniping the situation. Otherwise I would have shot him. And he was right here, I think. Oh, I'm gonna have to go though. That is unfortunate. I don't even have like a... Oh, but there's a supply drop over there. Ah. I'm not in the circle yet. This guy right there is building up. Yeah. Okay. That's not what I wanted. How do I do a roof again? Oh. Okay. Let's do this quickly. Quickly and swiftly. And good shotgun. That's an infantry rifle, not a shotgun. Honestly, a med kit would be coming useful. Okay, so now I gotta go to the edge of Tilted. There's a guy probably built up over there. Ah! Okay, he's up there. Prepare. Okay. I gotta reload this, yeah. I don't like having the low ground here. So I get around the mountain. If I get around the mountain, I'm detected. Not good. This is kind of risky. Bet I didn't have like a, what's the word? Man, I can't think of the word. Ooh, sniper. Is that worth? No, not yet. something in the med over here, I think. Nope, that's just a fridge. Poop. There's a guy right there. Hopefully he doesn't see me. Is it worth me using a med kit? Man. Just make sure everything's reloaded. Let's get some more materials, I guess, while I can. There's a guy. Oh. Oh, come on. I get him. Alright, that's okay. Okay, cool. Now it's gonna take forever to load again for whatever reason. Come on, load. There we go. That wasn't actually that bad. Okay, so we did all the challenges, and now we got this guy here. So we gotta figure out where the final banner is. Let's see, I'm not seeing it so far. I think it's just on that platform. I'll drop here then, I guess, and see if it's here. Maybe I make it slightly more sensitive. No, I mean that was fine, I think. Maybe a little more. See how that looks. Whew. It's gotta be right. Oh, there it is. It's on top of the. It's on top of the that truck in this area here. Glad I saw that, because otherwise I would have been like searching around in the middle there trying to find it. Once I do this, then I will have officially completed every challenge this season on the main stuff, which would be awesome. I'm gonna grab that and then bye bus. And I think I will be done. There's the truck right there. Should probably grab a weapon though. Alright. Oh sweet, there is a weapon in the truck. That's fantastic. Nice. I might use this real quick just in case that he sees me. Okay, so it's on top of. Maybe not this one. What? There was one with the thing open, right? stopped. Come on. What? I didn't get the thing yet, buddy. What even? Must be that truck up there. Somebody knows I'm here. What? Who is... Oh, he's up there. I don't understand. So it must be that truck? It's a truck outside of the thing. It must be the other truck then. I don't know. I don't know. Cool. I need to search ammo boxes as well. Oh, so it's top 10 squads and top 10 duos. And that I can do later too. I wonder how hard it would be to, like, if I switched my shotgun slot. I mean, I hate to do that because, but I don't know. You know, it might be okay. I'm gonna try it. Just try it for one. I'm gonna switch this to this. And then building, edit. It's gonna be that. Try that. Just see how it goes for a match or two. Alright, so we're thinking now it's on the outside. The semi over here, maybe? No. Does that guy have a gun? Is that a gun there or no? Yeah, it might be, but just get the thing and get out of here. Are you kidding me? Please don't. Oh, you were too late, buddy. Fine. Well, actually, hold on. I think I saw another one. Alright, we gotta replace this. Actually, I should probably do this. Let's go like that. And then like that. And I picked it up. Did see another one of those. Okay, so it's definitely on top of one of the trucks, though. That's right. Okay. gets on top of this one. You know, I don't know. No. It's on top of a truck. I mean, that was the... That's what it said. There's somebody. Okay. Come on. Oh, no. Got him. Fantastic. Okay, I just need... Alright, now let's go search for... It's not here either. Alright, so it could be either one of those two, but I'm pretty sure I searched all of those. I mean, if I live to the end game, I'm going to definitely be well off. Because I have so much metal. Switching these trucks here. It's not this one. Let's try this one. Not this one. This one over here, I guess. No way. Oh, no, not now. Yep. Okay. Oh, that's not right. Where the hell is? Ah! Oh man, that was nasty there. Okay. Oh, okay. I just need a breather. Okay, so now I have to get used to these new keybinds as well. Oh man. Okay, now maybe I can find this stupid challenge now. A lot of materials now. Oh yeah. those bandages I could use. How far would I have to hold them? Not too far. Yeah, figures. Where do you shoot me from? Where? Where are you shooting me from? So much for that. Like out of materials. Ugh. It must be on that truck. I'm healed up there, that way. No. There's the guy over there that was trying to kill me, I think. It really wouldn't be wise for me. He knows I'm there. Okay, reload. I mean, I did pretty good though, considering. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know where that last thing is. I'm gonna have to. It's on top of the truck with its lights on. Nope, they're all the same. By the water, by the building. By the water, by the building, I guess so. I mean, I don't understand why it's taking so long to load either. Alright, let's see if we can find this here. So there's a building right here, also a white building right here. There's a van here, and there's a van here. So what if it's right there? But I think I already got that one. I just gotta practice editing here. Win the day. Okay, so we need to go by a building. It's by a white building, by the water. Both by the water. It has to be that truck right there. It literally has to. Just need one more ammo box too. 20. Might as well go get him now. I mean, why not? That could be bad. That's hurt a lot. Now, as long as no one saw that, it should be okay. And yeah, got lucky, I guess. I'm just gonna heal up as much as I can. Cool. Fighting. Yeah. I don't have enough materials. So dumb. I just gotta go for it, I guess. Reloading. Reloading. Oop. I have no more materials. I mean, what else was I supposed to... I could have shot him, I guess, with the assault rifle. Man. I mean, you didn't really win that fight, buddy. You missed all your shots, but... You know, I was kind of weak from a... fight there. Ooh, we dropped some frames. That's not good. Man, I don't know. The internet is just not doing good. I wonder if I had it set to too high of a quality though. That could be it too. Yeah, I definitely could. Maybe I'll set it to a lower thing. Maybe that's why it's taking so long. So it's up against. Did I get the last one? Is that the deal? Nope, not on it. Oh, well, yeah, I mean, it's the last one, but now I just need the back bling. So, apparently, there is a, it should be on the wall, they're saying. guess I don't understand, but whatever. This is taking a lot longer. I thought this would be the easy part, where you get the battery, you're good. But no siree, Bob. It's not that easy. I think that's the worst part, is the waiting. I don't know why it's doing this. Unless I really do just have to restart my computer. I guess I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. This is just that awkward phase where like the internet actually isn't really fast yet, even though it wants to be. I don't know. And now it's like ping's really bad. Everything's just getting bad now. Maybe it is something with like the storm. As soon as I get this banner, I think I'm up, but that would be the end of the stream, so. So hopefully you're enjoying this, everybody. Alright, so it's next to the building. And it's on the, it must be right where that guy had the building there. It's gotta be. It's got to be. Oh no, I thought I saw a building. Great. Some shield. No. I don't know how this works. Just want the battle banner guy. There it is. Got it. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. I gotta stop being this like really low place on the map. See a shotgun, that would become useful. See, that would become useful for long distance. A drum gun. Do I want a drum gun? Alright, so that. It's a very odd loadout, if you say so myself. Alright, let's go see if we can fight some people then. I mean, that's gonna do it. I mean, that's everything we needed to get done today. Man, that is low ground. Okay, and we'll just try to win this last one, I guess. Look at these. Seems like everyone these places. It isn't so much anymore where you can like stumble upon a place like mid-game and be like, oh man, no one has searched this yet. I don't know why I brought the hand cannon. I mean, it's not like I'm good at it or anything. If I get the chance to switch it out, I think I will. Well, not really what I meant to do. The revolver, I think, uses... Yeah, using medium bullets anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, if I want to rotate here, would be the best way to do that. Hide in the city then. The guy over there. I really don't have enough ammo to take that guy on though. Well, let's see what they left behind over at the city here. Oh, that guy sees me. Oh, I could use the bow. How'd I miss? I'm not very good with the boom bow. As you can see. Okay. But, in other news, well, once it loads, I did it. I got everything, which means I get a banner. Woo! I did it though. Look at that. Every week, complete. There's a lot of challenges. Okay. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. We got all it done. We're ready to go. So I will catch you guys in the next one. See ya!